Hello there. Welcome back to another episode of Star Wars in the Galaxy, watching all stars we can get our hands on. I'm Eli.
I'm Jacob.
And today, the road to Malachor officially ends. We're here. Today, episode 184 of Star Wars in the Galaxy. It's official. Twilight of the Apprentice is here. We watched, this is episode 9 of season 22. We watched Twilight of the Apprentice, the finale for season 2 of Star Wars Rebels. And my lord, we got an episode to discuss today. We got a double-length episode to discuss today, don't we, Jacob?
We sure do. I'm so excited. This episode, this finale, this entire season, but really this finale was a defining moment in Star Wars for me growing up. Rebels was the first show that I watched as it was coming out. In many ways, it really felt like my introduction to truly being a part of the Star Wars fandom and the community as a whole, not just enjoying it on my own terms. So
I remember
incredibly fun to watch this again.
I wasn't like hardcore watching Rebels at the time, but I do remember watching the recon for this, being like one of the first times I engaged like really that I can remember with Star Wars on the internet is watching Rebels recon with the great Andy Gutierrez.
We can't dilly-dally. We can't dilly-dally and talk about this now because special episodes call for special guests. And
yes, but before we reveal our special guest, we have to do our summary for the episode. So, Jacob, if you can summarize this episode for us.
In Twilight of the Apprentice, Part 1, we open with Ahsoka talking to Rex in the Phantom as she, Ezra, and Kanan, on Yoda's advice, go to the Sith planet Malachor to discover forbidden knowledge on how to destroy the Inquisitors and destroy the Sith. They land on the surface of the planet. Ezra mistakenly touches an ancient Sith obelisk, which destroys part of the surface of the planet, and they fall through into the underground realm of Malachor, let's say, where they find a Sith temple. As they're exploring, they are attacked by the 8th brother, who quickly retreats when he realizes he is outmatched. They continue further into the temple. However, during the attack, Ezra fell down again into a hole. So as Kanan and Ahsoka go to discover the secrets of the temple, Ezra meets Maul, who has been on Malachor for some time, and says that he wants to help Ezra unlock the secrets of the temple so that they can both use them to destroy their enemies. So while Ahsoka and Kanan give chase to the 8th brother and eventually capture him, Maul and Ezra make their way into the temple, opening a series of very, very heavy doors with the Force, while Ezra taps into the dark side more and more to accomplish the goals and get closer and closer to finding the holocron, which they eventually do get their hands on after Ezra uses the Force to leap across, or Maul uses the Force to throw Ezra across this giant ravine and help him get to the holocron, which they are going to use to unlock the secret knowledge. And at the very end of the episode, we have... Sorry, I had lost my train of thought. You're going to have to do a little bit of cutting. At the very end of the episode, we end with Maul opening a door out of the temple where they are greeted by the 7th sister, the 5th brother, and the 8th brother dueling with Ahsoka and Kanan. In Part 2, Twilight of the Apprentice Part 2, we pick up exactly where we left off, with Maul joining in the duel. The Inquisitors are outmatched, and they retreat to regroup. Ezra, Maul, Kanan, and Ahsoka start making their way up the side of the temple, with Maul planning to place the holocron, or have Ezra place the holocron into the obelisk at the top in order to activate the secrets of the temple, or so he says. They make their way up to the top of the temple. They get separated a couple of different times. There's a lot of dueling. Maul even force chokes the 7th sister and begs Ezra to tap into his anger and strike her down, but Ezra trusts in Kanan's teachings and refuses to strike down the unarmed 7th sister, only for Maul to then kill her anyway. Ahsoka and Kanan defeat with Maul's help. Ahsoka and Kanan also defeat the fifth brother and the eighth brother, killing both of them. But this is when Maul reveals his true plans, that the temple is actually a super weapon that he is going to use to, as he says, exact revenge on all his enemies. He blinds Kanan with his lightsaber, but Kanan then is able to overpower him and throw him off the side of the temple into the depths below, knocking him out for the time being. Ezra makes his way to the very top of the temple, and activates it by placing the holocron in the obelisk. However, he talks to the voice of the holocron, the spirit within the holocron, and realizes what Maul had planned, that this is actually a super weapon. However, before he can get it out, Vader comes and destroys Ezra's lightsaber. Ahsoka makes it to the top, and she engages Vader in lightsaber combat, saying that she will avenge Anakin Skywalker's death. And Kanan eventually makes it to the top too. The two of them are able to dislodge the holocron from the obelisk, which triggers the temple to start collapsing. So while they're going to the Phantom, which is now right outside the temple, Ahsoka strikes open Vader's helmet with her lightsaber and realizes that it actually is Anakin. So while Ezra is begging her to come with them and leave, she force pushes Ezra to safety and continues to fight with Vader, even as the temple explodes all around them. Ezra and Kanan and Chopper make it back to the base, where they tell the others what happened to Ahsoka, that she is dead, or so they think. We close on Vader making his way out of the destroyed temple, and one final shot of Ahsoka appearing to walk deeper into the temple, and then Kanan dealing with being blind, and then Ezra. We close with Ezra opening the Sith holocron back on the Ghost.
But as Jacob was saying, special episodes require special guests, and this episode's not an exception. Joining us yet again, good friend of the show, host of Anytime with Ken and Alden, and Ahch-To Radio, a Star Wars podcast. We have Alden Diaz joins us yet again.
Hello, boys. I cannot thank you enough for calling me in for what I consider to be peak, as the kids say, peak Star Wars. Not just Star Wars television. This is one of Star Wars' finest hours.
Oh yeah,
speak on it. Absolutely.
This is, I'd say, for me, top 5 Rebels, top 10 animation, probably top 20 television episodes. Only because, and I only broaden the range just because of how much great Star Wars television we've gotten, especially over the last few years. Knowing that we were going to Malachor, which has already carried such a great legacy from KOTOR 2, where
hold on, don't skip over it. We gotta insert the round of applause here for KOTOR 2.
Give me a hard time about KOTOR 2.
You have to understand that before I knew either of you, or probably most of the people listening, before there was really the Star Wars podcasting boom and this was airing, just the idea that the season was heading there was big. Like, that was like hearing the name get dropped at all was crazy. That was crazy.
Oh, yeah.
Talk. It was really, really hype. Even so much so that I had to train myself out of calling it Malachor 5. Because in KOTOR 2 specifically, it's Malachor 5 is where it all goes down. This is more of an indiscriminate, whether or not there are numbers is undetermined. But yeah, it's great.
Alden's going to be incredibly satisfied because I just looked this up because I had a flash in my head just a few minutes ago where I was like, wait a second. I've been calling the super weapon atop the temple that gets activated this episode.
Mm-hmm.
I've been calling it in my notes the mass shadow generator.
And it's not.
I'm like, it's not. That's the one from Legends.
That's the one from Legends. Which I again, that's one of those things where for me, it's the mass shadow generator until someone says otherwise.
Yeah.
I've just like reapplied like a Sith element to that. Like instead of it being a Bayodur thing, it's a Sith thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and given of course, we don't really know exactly how the Jedi were petrified and Sith were petrified. Like, if there's any super weapon that could do that to somebody, a super weapon called the Mass Shadow Generator,
It's probably the one.
that list.
It's good advertising. It's definitely accurate branding.
Yes, it is. And of course, right as we get into the episode, Ahsoka already brings it up with the infamous line that echoed across the Star Wars fandom. I feel like till this day, there's always a bit of truth in legends, which is very funny to me. Just
It's some of the greatest cope ever delivered by any person or character. It's both like I think it's a very classy gesture from Filoni in particular, as a way to say, hey, you all invested a lot of time. It's not going to be so, because 2014 did make it sound very definitive, cataclysmic and very definitive and very like we've purged it. And this was more so it's not that none of it could have happened. It's that we're gonna be taking you through it. So it's both very classy, but it also did open the door to a lot of madness.
Of course, he says, they say the episode before, and I know there's a season between this, the episode before they bring in one of the most famous Legends characters of all time to play a huge role in canon. And of course, all the other stuff that they've brought in.
I mean, as we're recording this line and this episode, we're still feeling the shockwaves. Like, we're still dealing with it. Ahsoka live action is directly dealing with this trauma, with these arcs, with these characters of Ezra and Anakin, and like it's all still going. Maul, I mean, we're gonna go before this with his show, but I'm assuming it'll connect to this.
This episode is huge, and of course the Legends aspect of it. We've already seen the Hammerhead Corvettes in here, and I was expecting you to say, Alden, although again this is not really canon, but I was expecting you to talk about the impacts we're feeling in Star Wars stuff that had just come out with. I know Jacob hasn't seen this, so I'm sorry, Jacob, I'm going to spoil this for you.
Fine.
A certain Sith Lord who was brought in to Lego Star Wars Rebuild the Galaxy pieces of the past.
Oh, yes, indeed. The very canon pieces of the past.
The canon adjacent, but still, yes, we're referring to Darth Revan. But anyway, before we get all into Malachor, the first thing I have here is already we have these like hard-hitting moments exchange between Ahsoka and Rex. You don't exactly outrank me anymore. In my book, experience outranks everything. Then I definitely outrank you, which hits so much harder, I feel like, to me now because of the parallels we get in Old Friends Not Forgotten, I believe is the episode of Siege of Mandalore where we touch upon this back again. Yeah, we're tunneling. We're going full speed into obviously this. How would I say this? Like full speed into the end of Ahsoka's arc for this part of her life, as we've been describing it. But Jacob, Alden and I have talked about Malachor a little bit already. I want to know your thoughts generally about just the setting of Malachor.
Oh gosh, I mean, first off, to have it set on a planet from Legends, maybe not Malachor 5, maybe not Malachor, but just Malachor, just bringing that back. I remember the excitement at the time that I felt, and this was one of the first really big ways that I can recall of Lucasfilm, of a Star Wars show or any kind of property delving deep into the Legends catalog to sort of use and reuse ideas and reintroduce some of the materials, moments, places in this instance that so many people have loved for so long. So, you know, Malachor really had to deliver here, and I think it absolutely does. I mean, just as soon as we touch down on the planet, like first off, that like bass heavy ominous music, the mirror finish, flat glass or obsidian that they're on, it just feels like they're going someplace that they shouldn't even be supposed to. Wow, I made a hash of that. But someplace like no mortal
You got
beings
there
could
though.
be,
You got
know?
there.
Like it's kind of it almost has this like
They shouldn't even
mythological,
talk about it.
biblical sort of overtone and patina on everything that's happening. So I think that as a backdrop, and as a participant in the story, as a force in the story, I think Malachor was done very well. And right from the get-go, I can feel that. I feel the excitement and the foreboding, even with just the lighting and the shots. That one shot where you see them walking beneath one of the giant towers, and you realize just how small they are in comparison to this Sith architecture that's been here. And that really, for me, kind of drives home and opens up the episode in terms of, placing them, like I said, in this sort of how the hell are we even here kind of ridiculous situation.
That's really well said. And I just wanted to add to your point about the sort of like mythic forbidden sort of like aura of the planet. I think it's like really cool because on your show and us as fans and when I've done my show, we like to consider like the whole of it. And like the more when I think about Malachor and then I think about Korriban/Moraban and then I think about Exegol, it's really cool that they have created like a unified tone without repeating the aesthetic. Like the three planets don't look the same, but they all feel almost like we could be cynical about it and be like, oh wow, another forbidden world of the Sith that we didn't know or we couldn't find, and now here's another one. But when you consider like the length of any empire, it's like you almost see like three different times, three different eras, three different like levels of scary. And Exegol by the end is the most ghostly and the most dead feeling.
Yeah.
And this one sort of evokes conflict and combat and war. This is where we can see like the direct outcome of something disastrous, but also public, like boots on the ground. We were here at some point. And then Moraban is very religious and is very, very
it's
ethereal.
The holy world of the Sith.
Yeah, and they sort of feel very together. We get a full picture of what they are, and I think Dave always thrives in these spaces of adding. Here's another flavor to the myth that you didn't know about.
Yeah, and of course, seeing the mirror of that in so many Star Wars things, your Tythons, your Osises, your Ilums, your all that kind of stuff for the Jedi and their variedness, which is, I will say, more varied than the Sith. Which there's something in there, but. Yeah, we get down to Malachor, and instantly, the next thing I have in my notes, instantly Ezra was drawn straight to the dark, which reminded me of Rey's moment in TLJ. You went straight to the dark, connecting to the dark parts of the planet. Now, obviously, that's a little bit different because Ahch-To is a Jedi world, but of course thrives as Luke has with that great montage of within it all and through it all balance and all that kind of stuff. It's kind of, it's difficult not to, at least in my mind, go straight to the dark, and it takes a lot of discipline not to. And Ezra is, of course, not there yet. And it's just, I think that's a great little tease that we'll get to in this episode of how Ezra is affected by the darkness of Malachor. Of course, how they all are, but Ezra, I think, is going to feel the most effect of that in this episode.
Yeah. And I think it was, again, it's one of those things that we can really see in hindsight as we've told more stories. But Ezra's brush with the dark, which is like something that all protagonists have to have, and especially anyone connected to the magic in this galaxy. But he is, and I'm thinking about it as I say it to make sure I'm right, and I'm pretty sure I'm right. He's the youngest, like he encounters his brush with the dark at the youngest point. Like Cal's in Survivor, when he really goes through it, he's a grown-ass man. Luke's 20 when he really has his 20 into 21. 16. Yeah, like Sabine just had hers, she's 30. Like it's all Rey was 19. So that 19 was that youngest point. Cal in Survivor, I think, has to be in his mid-20s or early 20s.
I'm trying to think because, no, he has to be. I was looking into Wikipedia to see if there was an exact age. There isn't, but no, but he's definitely
guesstimating off of his Order 66 age.
I think he's already older than Ezra in Fallen Order, if I had to guess. But
Probably
but
is.
definitely in Survivor.
Yeah, because Ezra was born on Empire Day. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
He's like, he got to be 7 or 8 years older than him. Because Cal in that flashback is at least 8, you would think.
Yeah.
At least. Anyway, I think they do a good job of showing that like Ezra's still a boy. Like, yeah, he's a teenager, but he's a boy. Like he doesn't start to come into his own until he cuts his hair, really gets it together next season. But even then he's like 16. Like he's still young. Yeah. And so I think that they show almost like when Spider-Man brushes up against like a really bad influence. Like it almost seems like you're worried for him in these contexts. Yeah. And I think they do a good job with it. Taylor Gray does a great job with it. It's good stuff.
But I'm glad you mentioned Cal, actually, Alden, but because I drew a lot of comparisons with Ezra's brush with the dark side here to Cal's at the end of Survivor. I think because both of them have been fighting the Empire for so long, and Luke has too, but there's not as much of this emphasis in the original trilogy as there is with Cal and Ezra here, which is, well, we've been fighting them for so long, and nothing's really happening. Mm-hmm. And the dark side offers ease. Yeah. Going back to Yoda, the quick and easy path. And you will see as we go through this episode, one of my favorite things about this episode, and specifically with the Inquisitors, is Maul dispatches those guys so easy.
Yeah.
Seventh Sister goes down in a minute. Fifth Brother goes down in less. Eighth Brother is a fluke. We'll talk about Eighth Brother later.
I mean, like, even just like narratively, and I'm going to say cinematically, even though it's TV, in terms of introducing Maul to an audience, there you got to account for the part of the audience that this is the first time they're meeting him, which is the age bracket of the Rebels audience. Then there will be hardcore kids that watch it that have hardcore fan parents, where that's a little bit different, I'm sure, but it wasn't just people like us. And I think the treatment of Maul and the juxtaposition to the Inquisitors emphasizes, no matter if it's your first time meeting him or if you're so excited to see him again, this guy was a Sith Lord. Yeah. Like there is a different level that even crazy and malnourished and creepy and like kind of out of it as he is.
Old Master,
he's still in that percent of Darksiders that is that big of a threat.
Yeah. There's levels to this.
And the bottom line is that no matter how well the these Inquisitors use the dark side of the Force, Maul just uses it better. He's just better at it. And there's nothing that's going to stop that. And even though obviously we'll talk about the tools of the dark side and all that kind of stuff, it takes Kanan and Ahsoka and Ezra an entire season to stand toe to toe with these Inquisitors, and Maul pops off in 10 minutes and kills 2 of them. But I always like to talk about, just because Rebels is one of the only, I think obviously the Clone Wars didn't do this, and so like talking about the fortune cookies with the Clone Wars, I always love to talk about the cut to titles with Rebels. And I will just say the cut to title for part 1 of this: Ezra, Ahsoka, and Kanan confronted with a Sith temple atop which sits, and I put my notes, the mass shadow generator, which I'm still calling it. Fantastic cut to title. Love that. But as we go on, we get like a good few minutes of, before the 8th brother arrives, Ezra and Ahsoka and Kanan just kind of looking around Malachor. They're just kind of investigating. Alden, I'll throw it to you. Do you have any thoughts and things you want to talk about before the 8th brother arrives, when they're just kind of like walking around and seeing what's going on Malachor?
I think in rewatches of this over the years and just absorbing it, I think the thing I enjoy the most about this is the grouping of the characters. I think the interplay is really cool. I think that this is a great Rebels in overall, being as much of a Jedi story as it is, does a good job of showing the different kinds of Jedi personalities in a way that maybe we don't have time to do in a movie, or where there's only 1 or 2 main Jedi protagonists. But I feel sort of a bittersweetness knowing that this was the end of a grouping that we were enjoying throughout this season of Rebels.
Yeah, that's a good point. Absolutely. Especially with Kanan and Ezra's sort of deference to Ahsoka, who herself obviously acknowledges later in this episode she's not a Jedi. We've talked about this through the season of like where Ahsoka is in this weird liminal space.
I wonder if that line is going to get any traction in the fandom.
I have not written a whole like paragraph or something like that in my notes about that line and how much I love the line. I love the to be clear, I love the line. It is also one of the most misunderstood lines in the Star Wars fandom, and I will stand by that. So, but yeah, no, I think you have a good point. And what I'm so interested in, actually, especially, is even though there's a whole bunch of differences in all of them and all their experience and stuff, what I find so interesting is their unification at the beginning of, no, we're here to find out how to defeat the Sith. Even Ahsoka, with all her wisdom, is like, okay, we're here to find out how to defeat the Sith. I think she might have suspicions that Master Yoda may have sent them there for some other reason, but even she's going on along with the idea of defeat the Sith, defeat the Sith, defeat the Sith. And where was I going with that? Oh yeah, I think there's a line here that we'll come back to, which I found it so interesting. I knew Ahsoka said it in this episode. I knew Ahsoka said it. I didn't remember if she said it in this episode. And then Maul says a version of this episode. And then, of course, the most infamous version of this quote is said by yet another character in a future season of Rebels, which Ahsoka says, when asked what kind of knowledge they're going for, Ahsoka says, the forbidden kind. To defeat your enemy, you have to understand them. And Maul will say later something like, to defeat your enemy, you must know them.
He says something eerily similar.
To defeat your enemy, you must know your enemy. And of course, I love both of those quotes, but the one my mind always go to is the infamous one from Thrawn. To defeat your enemy, you must know them, not just their battle tactics, but their history, culture, art. I did not know that this phrase was repeated 3 times in Rebels, and only one of them gets it right. And what I think is so compelling and really smart is that Maul and Thrawn both say no. And Ahsoka says understand.
Yeah.
And it is that difference about empathy, about not just can you name where they're from, not just can you name what style of lightsaber combat they use, but no, can you understand their motivations? Can you understand what makes them tick? At least a little bit.
Statistics versus people versus fleshed out human beings. And that goes all the way back to a scene that we all love and that our whole friend group loves and understands, which is Dex's Diner. Like that's knowledge and wisdom. That is knowledge and wisdom is the difference between Thrawn being able to know what a Calicori is and what it describes and what's in it versus what it specifically means to Hera is a completely different level of human intuition that you can't, it's not a military tactic to have that.
Yeah. And I'll credit Thrawn. He gets closer than most do on the dark side, but he still doesn't get there. He still does not get there. And Ahsoka, even in just saying this, gets way further than any person on the dark side would ever.
Yeah.
And there's that whole theme that is present through the episode of understanding the enemy and what does that mean to understand the enemy. Yeah, Jacob, actually, I'll pass to you. Anything before the 8th brother jumps them all, as he is prone to do? Anything you want to talk about?
Oh, man. I mean, first off, small-ish detail. I love the Pompeii-style Jedi and Sith warriors frozen in time by whatever disastrous thing happened thousands of years ago. That just as an image sticks in my mind. But I'm curious about what both you guys think. I was really intrigued, and I'm very intrigued by the forbidden knowledge line that Ahsoka drops, because throughout the years that I've watched this episode, rewatched it, been a fan of Rebels, been a fan of Ahsoka, she comes back in Rebels, with the Ahsoka show. I've been, for a while, grappling with the idea of, was going to Malachor a calamitous mistake? Because before we get Ahsoka back, when I thought that she was dead after this, that was my interpretation of this on a larger story level for these characters, was that regardless of what Yoda said, maybe Yoda was wrong. It goes against Yoda's own philosophy where he says you don't defeat your enemy in war. I can't remember exactly how he phrases it. A few times he says like wars are survived, wars are not won. You don't defeat your enemy, you survive. I'm thinking about Ambush, for instance, when he's talking to the clones on Rugosa. But I guess it's such a hard tack away from the usual Jedi philosophy and the usual light side way of doing things in general to go after your enemy, even seeking forbidden knowledge in order to try and destroy your enemy. This really is, in a sense, it's saving what you love, but it's doing so by really, really intentionally trying to fight what you hate. And now I'm not sure if it was a mistake. We can talk about with the Force in a religious, prophetic way. Maybe Ahsoka needed that experience. She needed to be able to go into the world between worlds to do what she does. So I'm always kind of going back and forth and wondering about this idea of forbidden knowledge and about, was it a mistake? Was it not? Is that a relevant way of looking at it? So I'm curious to see if you guys have thoughts on that or something to say.
What do you think, Eli?
My thing, and I was thinking of, I put this in my notes as well, like, what was the purpose of Malachor? And I came up with two answers. One of them, I believe I heard first from friend of the show, friend of all of ours, Alex Damon from Star Wars Explained. The idea of Yoda's point with Malachor was specifically to tell Ezra, to instruct Ezra about what could happen, specifically with the Jedi and Sith, to Ahsoka and Kanan and Ezra, if they kept fighting just to fight. And I think that there's truth to that. I think there's really great stuff to that. I also just generally, with both that answer and the one I'm going to say, Yoda never explicitly says to Ezra, like, this is how you get the knowledge. I think he used is the cynical way of putting it. But I would just say, like, met Ezra where he was at and met all of them where they were at, with the idea of, okay, you want to defeat the Sith. Let's see what we can do about that. And I think the lesson where I land, the lesson that Yoda, I think, was trying to teach Ezra and Kanan and Ahsoka, but specifically Ezra, obviously, because that's who he was talking to, was, okay, the greatest power amp you can apply to yourselves against the darkness is facing it. If you want to know how to defeat the Sith and how to defeat the dark side, you must meet it in its own domain and face it's whatever it has within you. I think Yoda realized that there were still so many unresolved things, and obviously he saw, I'm not sure obviously how much he literally saw of this in Shroud of Darkness, but he saw there were unresolved things that Ezra and Kanan and Ahsoka all need to face within themselves. And there are a number of good planets within the dark side to do so, and one of them just so happened to be Malachor. And I think the idea of the greatest strength you have against the dark side is facing it within yourselves is... And look, maybe that's giving too much to Yoda, but
no, but I think
if there's anyone to do that, it's me. So.
Yeah. I mean, look, everything that both of what you guys are saying, I think, ties into one, the end point for the whole, as of right now, the end point of the whole conflict with the Sith. Now, mind you, we're recording this in September 2025. If we get to Starfighter and suddenly the Sith are back, don't hold me to that. But it's like, as of right now, the end point is tied into one key piece of Jedi advice, which is that the destiny of the Jedi, confronting fear, is the destiny of a Jedi. I was about to say it flipped. I was about to Yoda speak it. But that is the thing, is that it is sometimes, and it sounds silly, but like the Jedi sometimes end up in that sort of circular thought of like best defense is good offense. And even if they don't want that to be the case, like I've joked with Ken Knapsack from Force Center, my co-host on Anytime, that the thesis of Star Wars can be summed up by saying we wish it was Star Peace, but like ultimately we would all love it for it to be Star Peace, but we are carrying
but here
swords.
we are.
Like we are ready to do this if necessary. And I think it's important that Yoda and his wisdom, but also his fallibility, this is the Yoda who is heading toward the conclusion of meeting the son of Anakin Skywalker and being like, you need to kill him. Yeah. And it's like, and we can analyze that all day. That's a different conversation that we've all had in different contexts and everything, particularly in the context of the Kenobi finale. That came up a lot about whose right it is and whose decision is it to say this person needs to die. But I think it's like used or not used, nudged maybe is the word I would use. But like he knew whether they need to get there and be defenders, whether they need to get there and just discover something, whether they need to get there and engage in a huge, massive, violent duel. It's not really for him to say, but they do need to get there. Like I think Yoda is at that point where it's like these situations that are bubbling up and arising are getting to the point where they can't be ignored. And then, so there's that element of it. And I also think, to your larger question of like, will it be looked back on as a mistake, I guess, when Ahsoka is old or when it's all over for her, whenever her adventure's over? We still have all the lingering questions about whether she's dead by the time of Rise, because Dave won't commit to that. Even like just because she's part of the chorus of voices doesn't necessarily mean that she's dead.
One thing that Dave says about Rise of Skywalker afterwards is like, okay, relax, everybody. She may not be dead.
She might not be. She could be. But, that immediately fueled thousands of posts about she becomes one of the Force gods. She replaces the daughter.
For more on that, Ahsoka season 2 coming to Disney Plus 2026.
Yeah, wherever that's gonna go. But I think ultimately it's the causal loop thing of like, was it good? Was it bad? Undetermined, but it did have to happen so she could be saved. Yeah. And I think that her being saved is so big for her journey, but it's also like the Force setting up Ezra's final test. Because for me, because he's a Boken Jedi, a term that I love that we have now, where he is in his progression is sort of up to the viewer unless said. And so I feel like Ezra making the right choice to not abuse the portals to try to save Kanan is where he becomes a knight. For me, I think that's where he becomes Ezra Bridger Jedi Knight. You could argue that maybe it's summoning the Purgle and defeating Thrawn. That's also a really good choice. But that to me was when he was definitely at least trial ready. And so I think I come down on it being good in the long view, that had they not gone, he would have never learned something. And you can make the argument of, well, had they not gone that, he wouldn't have needed to save her because she wouldn't need saving. But like, that's a causal loop problem. Yeah. That's just how
grandfather paradox. What do you mean?
We're getting into, not to bring it up, but we're getting into Prisoner of Azkaban territory where it's just like,
no, it is. It's like there's an episode of Doctor Who that starts with Peter Capaldi breaking the fourth wall and addressing the bootstrap paradox. And it's that. It's also Hodor. For those of you who like Game of Thrones, it's why Hodor is Hodor, because he experienced his own death.
I think that is both of you guys beautifully well said. Definitely I can get down with that. I think it's not even a matter of good or bad necessarily, but I think for the story and the way that it plays out, what had to happen. I see this as this is the moment that kind of changes Ahsoka's life profoundly, and she's never really the same after this. Like I kind of almost see her as like not a different person, but like I'm reading more and more religious history these days for courses and whatnot. So I'm relating a lot of things to that. But a lot of times in various sort of saints and holy figures, and they have an experience, and they in order to reach a level of enlightenment or a level of holiness, power, whatever it is, they lose something of who they were before. And they're not quite the same person. That's kind of how I view Ahsoka. So I think what you guys are saying makes sense. And I think for me, especially with the way that it's played out with Ahsoka, with the Mandalorian, with the season 3 and season 4, it feels more and more sort of prophetic and almost religious, the way that her journey leads to Malachor.
And to that point, this is later in the episode, and we'll get there, but just like to make a connection to how this ends for Kanan losing his sight is exactly what you're talking about. Like that's a classic example. Or like you go to like Ragnarok when Thor loses his eye and sort of visually becomes his father. Like in that sense, like you losing the sight losing your eyes but gaining your sight is such a classic like myth thing, and
Yeah,
to be
yeah.
sanctified, and the way that people that attain sort of that saintliness are often like severed from like the worldly possessions, and I think we'll see that now. Not to make this like Ahsoka 2 speculation, but it's like she's stranded on that world. She doesn't even have a way to get back. Like she's that literally disconnected now from the way life was.
She's down a sword.
Down a sword, down a bunch of friends, ain't got no way home. Like you do sort of have to lose everything for like that sort of clarity.
Yeah.
Also makes me think of the Nelvon arc in Tartakovsky, like the severing of the robotic arm. Like to rather be armless than to be like what they made you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not to completely pivot from this, but the next thing in the episode, and I want to talk about it because there are two like major like fandom things in this episode I want to talk about. One I've already alluded to with I Am No Jedi, which we'll get to. The other one is a more fun conversation, and a more I am begging people to have fun conversation.
Mm-hmm.
This guy, the eighth brother, who we know is a Trellian Django jumper, who we never get to see, and I'm begging Lucasfilm, please.
Yeah,
please, I want to see the eighth brother.
As of right now, but that species, like as of right now, that species is just a guy. Like we don't know anything really about what it even looks like.
No,
I've
we
always
do.
been like,
there was a Trellian Django. There was a Trellian Django jumper in the Clone Wars. We do. It's one of the thieves who stole the Ahsoka lightsaber. We don't know what male one looks like.
Oh, they're the species that I thought was an Aura Singh the first time that I saw it. Was the Aura Singh?
Yeah,
species.
similar.
Yeah, they're a little similar.
Yeah. But anyway, so this guy drop kicks Kanan Jarrus, and then I love Star Wars sometimes. I really do. Lights up his saber, starts twirling that thing around, and starts fucking flying.
It's awesome.
Oh my gosh, yeah, the Saber copters.
Saber copters, everybody.
Yeah.
Saber copters. I want to hear. I'll pass this to Jacob first. Jacob, saber copters.
Oh man,
where do you come down on saber copters?
I know the controversy. I know people think it's goofy. I don't know. Like when I watched this, when I kind of was the target audience as like a young teenager when this came out, I was just like, oh sweet, they can do that now. Then I thought about it and I was like, okay, yeah, I thought these were blades of pure energy and now they're like airfoils and can like generate lift. Then years later I read like, oh, there's actually like little repulsor lift thingamafucks in the actual lightsaber, and I'm just like, yeah, okay, that's such a weak way to be like, oh no, it does make sense, because I really don't think it makes sense, but it doesn't bug me a ton. It was so superfluous to add them in. Like they're Inquisitors. They could have leapt from column to column. You run around, like whatever you have to do what you got to do. But in a way, I guess I'm glad they did, because for better or for worse, we got to see it.
I had a revelation with this episode, and I'll pass it all to him. But I just wanted to say I had a revelation with this episode. I had a revelation with this episode. Hear me out on this. The Inquisitors are all, to one extent or another, non-recovering theater kids. Everything they do, you look at Trilla, you look at Ninth Sister, you look at Seventh Sister, even some of the less dramatic ones like Marek or Fifth Brother or any of them, they all do things in the most dramatic ways possible. You could also attribute that to their master, who is, even for a Sith Lord, one of the most dramatic people I've ever seen in Star Wars. They always do things so dramatically. They all have their slightly different helmets. They have the double-bladed lightsabers. They spin them around. They fly on them. They are the most dramatic people I've ever seen in an already very dramatic franchise. And so the addition of sabers, as I mentioned, of sabers that can fly, is just for me like the cherry on top of like, yeah, these people are the most unserious people who think they're so serious.
Yeah, no, I'm down with that, and I think there's the intimidation, like trying to do the mind games and everything, but also like for me, it's a Star Wars-ifying of a fantasy idea. Like I liked it when Dooku, the second time I'll reference Tartakovsky, when Dooku would like levitate down instead of just jumping down.
Oh my
like,
god, yeah, that was amazing. That was
Yeah,
totally
like,
amazing.
funny.
I for years I've been saying I want someone to do it in live action. I want someone to do it in live action. Then Acolyte has 2 levitate down moments throughout the series, and so for me it's kind of in that where it's like I also went down the rabbit hole of like, oh, can these even generate lift? Like, does this make sense? But then I was like, maybe it's just putting sauce on something they can already do. And once I started to think about it that way, where it was like, this is aura farming in the air, this is just being cool. Like, I started to like it more because it is an intimidation tactic when they use it on the ground, like in Kenobi when he's going after Flea with the thing. Like that feels right. I don't that doesn't bother me. It's like I don't mind it when the villains just like have that next thing. You know, it's to me there's more egregious. Like it's not like it's the Star Wars Visions umbrella, and
Yeah.
like that would be a lot maybe for
There's
a
new
setting.
version where they're like what, like 8
They
blades and something
they like
like
point out, yeah, more of a claw. Like so.
Thank
you know,
God that's only in Visions.
I kind of
wouldn't
put
be ready for
these in the same, like this is also like a year and a half, 2 years after we went through Crossguard Discourse, one of the early
That's true.
discourses.
And look what shows up right in this episode, by the way.
Yeah. That's right.
The as I call it, the hey guys, we've seen the Force Awakens moment of this episode.
And they used that green Crossguard lightsaber in the trailers for this season, and we all thought it was going to be a thing. It was not a thing.
And then it wasn't.
I was so ready for like green Crossguard Ezra.
Nope, it just picks it up and puts it down. I think we got to get on to the next part of the episode.
Oh, however, sorry to cut you off.
Yeah,
I have headcanon that's where Ezra gets his green crystal. It's proven otherwise.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, who knows? Love to get an answer about it someday. So many moments. I remember how, looking back, Twilight Apprentice was so heavily featured in the season 2 trailers for Rebels. It's crazy. And the one line that there are so many lines from this episode that are iconic to me only because I remember how great they were in the trailer, and then in the episodes they were also great too. Wait, what's the line? Oh yeah, I don't know you. Well then, let's change that. Call me Old Master. And here he is again.
It's awesome.
Darth Maul shows his ugly face again. I've had issues with this character. But like at this point, look, we're getting an entire damn TV show about him. I'm getting over it.
Yeah.
And my God, I forgot how great of a performance Sam Witwer puts on in this episode is with the return of Maul. There's a very inverse of Yoda thing he does with Ezra. Oh, I'm so old. I'm so weak. Of course, Yoda's doing it to test Luke in ESB, and Maul's doing it, I guess, just to fuck with him. Honestly, so
manipulation.
Yeah, my favorite thing, and then I'll pass it over to both of you. My favorite thing about Maul is how moral relativist he is. Like, he's literally just standing there for most of this first part of the episode and just asking questions of Ezra. Pointed questions.
He should have a podcast.
You should have a White Wing podcast.
Just asking questions, folks.
He's just asking questions. I'm just saying. I'm not saying anything. I'm just asking questions. And like there are great lines. Like, for example, I have this line written down: "The Sith took everything from me, ripped me from my mother's arms, murdered my brother, used me as a weapon, and then cast me aside." And it's like nothing there he's saying is technically wrong. He's removing a lot of his own agency in that, but he's not actually saying anything false. And it's such subtle manipulation. He's very rarely ever, at least before Ahsoka, and he meets up with Ahsoka and Kanan, who obviously recognize who he is, and then the gloves kind of come off. He's very subtle about how he does this. He's very he plays his cards really expertly well with Ezra.
He hits all like the pressure points of where Ezra somehow he hits all the pressure points where Ezra has strains in his relationship with Kanan as an apprentice. He makes, and this jumps forward to the next episode as well, but he's encouraging Ezra to trust himself. He's implying that the people around him are holding him back. That fits without Ezra when Kanan kind of admonishes Ezra, for rightly so, but admonishes him about trusting the ex-Sith Maul very blindly. Ezra feels like Kanan's infantilizing him, not trusting him to take care of himself or make the right decisions. We've seen
and it's great
because
Maul
problem for them.
Maul is telling Ezra everything he wants to hear, and that's why Kanan, although I understand his impulses, goes at from completely the wrong angle.
Sorry, go ahead.
Maul is not threatening Ezra. There's nothing that Maul is saying that Ezra is feeling threatened by. It's everything he wants to hear.
Well, I think, I mean, the dark side's language of power, seizing your potential, seeing those who care about you as limitations and as the people around you are holding you back, that's very persuasive for people who feel like they're overlooked, or people who are struggling to impact the world and impact their life and change their life the way they want, which is exactly who Ezra kind of is at this point. He's grappling with all these big questions about the fight and what he can do, and can he protect the people that he loves, and Maul is able to sniff that out, I guess.
Yeah, and I think it plays with this time in Maul's life too, and introduces him at a point where it's only been bolstered by further storytelling with the Crimson Dawn stuff, what we're going to get now in his own show. Go back to Clone Wars and the way that he was able to really hurt Obi-Wan, specifically emotionally, digging into somebody's psyche, is sort of plays into like the abused becoming the abuser, and like how he feels tossed aside, and everything that he does is a personal reaction. He's now trying to like provoke the same personal reactions out of other people, because he can't help but be sort of like the perpetual lab rat that's now taking out all of his rage on everybody else. And I think that he sees in Ezra a little bit, not of himself necessarily personality wise, but sees somebody that could be broken in the same way he was, and will obviously do bad things to him, but he thinks he's better than Palpatine. I think it's like for him, it's sort of a role play of like, I can do the master thing better than was done to me.
Yeah,
I think
and he's not wrong. Maul's not wrong that he's better than Palpatine, but like that's such a freaking low bar.
Yeah, the bar's in hell. Like that's how low the bar is.
It's like Maul is not seducing Ezra to be a Sith. He's seducing Ezra to the dark side, and to be like, that's the great thing, as you're saying about Maul. It's like he's kind of whatever he needs to be right now. He's kind of just doing whatever he can to further his quests of revenge, which I actually which is a great kind of thing for me, because I had taken a note about this, which is really interesting to me, which is, I forget where he says it. There's a little bit, although he does mention the Empire later in the episode, there's a lot of ambiguity to me. And of course, this is with hindsight of further seasons. But like when he's talking about getting revenge on his enemies, blah, blah, blah. What I think is actually really interesting about this episode is that he never clarifies, with that one exception of the Empire, and even that's pretty vague, which enemy he's talking about. Because he has two right now. Everything that Maul does, I feel like, that we've seen post-Empire is oscillating between two enemies. It's Palpatine and it's Kenobi. It's one of those two. He's always going for one of those two. And depending on the one he's going for, kind of dictates which Maul he is. Not that he's necessarily better, like morally, but he's more advantageous, obviously, to the heroes when he's fighting Palpatine. But it's kind of like a weird, like, on-off switch where, like, sometimes he's doing one, sometimes he's doing the other, and you can never really tell until he does it.
Well, I think his experiences as a Sith, he was broken down so much that, like you said, Alden, like, it kind of feels like the whole world is against him, and he is against the entire galaxy. And for him, like, He is absolutely fixated on Obi-Wan. But beyond that, he needs revenge, and he feels like he needs to get his own back somehow, just in a vacuum. That's just like, that's just him. That's who he is, as much as it is like an actual, like, as much as it is an actuality of what other people have and have not done. But something that I was struck by as well is the way that he absolutely is lying to Ezra, manipulating him, trying to keep him at the temple, pull him away from Kanan, seduce him to the dark side. He's also like strikingly, at the very same time that he's intensely trying to manipulate Ezra, he's sort of strikingly authentic in what he's saying to Ezra, and what he's communicating about his experiences. Like he gets real about.
It's sort of like the idea of it's a character's truth.
Yeah,
you know, I think that was a big talking point during Acolyte, where I think Leslie Headland, tried to say that to fans in an interview, and fans took it, I think, in a weird direct. Like, she said, well, the stranger / Chimere is not trying to be manipulative. He's speaking his truth. And it's like, well, yeah, but his truth is his truth. And I think she knows that. I think Dave knows that about Maul. Like, this is, it's easy from Maul's perspective. He's the protagonist. Yeah. As Freddie Prinze Jr. says, this is Sisyphus in Star Wars.
Every time I hear that, I will always hear it in Freddie Prinze Jr.'s voice. Sisyphus, learn your Greek mythology. If anybody hasn't seen that rant, I will link it in the description of the depths. You need to see it once, just because of how just incredible it is to watch Freddie Prinze Jr. just go off. Even if there are some things he says that I'm like, okay, well, maybe let's gain a little more perspective on it here. But I will say, I'm so glad Alden mentioned the stranger, because I had in my head earlier this episode, and I was going to mention him earlier, because I think this, like, Maul's manipulation is some of the most interesting manipulation, like dark side manipulation we saw until the stranger and the Acolyte. And a lot of it, I feel like, comes from the same place, which is manipulating a lot of these like fundamental truths that Jedi believe against them. And although Maul is very much targeted towards Ezra, and Chimere is very much targeted towards himself, where I feel like where Maul goes straight for Ezra's desires. And the great thing to me about the stranger is he goes, well, look what I'm doing. I'm not doing much of anything. I'm just trying to practice the way I want to practice, and everybody's hunting me for it. Like,
as I call him, I call Chimere the states' rights Sith Lord.
I've heard that before.
He's states' rights. Well, states' rights to what? And he never answers. He just stabs you. Like, there's never actually an answer. And I also thought of, as we were talking about Maul, I also thought of the meme that, well, it's a tweet, but it became a meme that compares American, like the modern libertarian, to a house cat, where it's like they think themselves independent creatures, but they're really entirely dependent on the house that they live in.
Yeah,
it's true, and I like that specifically.
That's a beautiful metaphor.
Maul thinks that, like, specifically with like the ideas of like the system and all that kind of stuff, Maul thinks he can break the system down and remake it in his own image. Yeah. Everything Maul's done is because the system is shaped around him to do so.
Even when he's acting as like a rogue renegade in the Clone Wars, it serves the Clone Wars. It serves the purpose. It does. Everything helps the effort, Palpatine. Not just of the CIS, but of Palpatine. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and that is, of course, because he still fails to understand, which is, and I'm not even really blaming him about this, because it's only really something you can understand from the outside of the universe. I don't think many people within the universe understand this. That's only because Palpatine is one of the greatest yes-anders in fiction. It's only because Palpatine has a unique talent of going, okay, how can I make this wrinkle in my plan become my plan? How can I use this for myself? There was something else I was going to say about Maul specifically. I'll just say that I really love his Rebels design. I think it really tracks with where his character would be in this moment, while also fitting in with that great Rebels design that we've been seeing through these last few seasons.
Can I make a complaint about, since you said design?
Okay, yeah.
This is not about the show. It's about the way this was adapted in another thing. I can't say another show. This Maul is great. I really like Rebels Maul, and I like this Maul when he puts on a short sleeve shirt in the next season. That's good too.
Forgot about
I
that.
forgot about that.
And I like him when he dies. I think he dies shirtless again, right?
I don't remember.
Or like with a shawl or something, like whatever.
Yeah, maybe it's like a cloak or something like that.
In any case, I like Rebels Maul a lot.
Oh, I think I know where you're going.
They took Rebels Maul and they put him in Battlefront 2, and it's wrong.
Yeah.
It's wrong.
Yeah.
I turned to Seinfeld there. That's how wrong it is.
It doesn't look good. It doesn't look good. Plus,
it's the TPM Maul with the solo legs, but the Rebels short sleeve shirt. It's really weird. I don't like it. I don't like it.
But Alden, at least it only requires 500 light side hero kills to get Maul. Oh wait, no, what? 5,000?
5,000, dude. 5,000.
Wait, did somebody say 5,000? The fuck?
5K.
5.
Although I believe that didn't they give it to Sam Witwer for free? Didn't they like just give it to Sam?
They better have.
They
fucking better have.
Yeah, no, it was that skin was the skin was weird. The skin was weird.
Yeah,
and
for a shit skin, 5,000. Although, wait, no, here's what it was. It's villain kills. And they made it better. Because do either of you remember what the original requirement was?
I'm not tapped into Battlefront like that, bro. Not at all.
I thought it was 5,000 kills, period, when it came out.
Is this like the accomplishments as part of that whole?
No, this is after that.
There was a skin that you had to unlock.
This was a Darth Maul skin. This came around the end of the game, producing original content.
Yeah.
Now it's 5,000 kills with any villain.
Okay, so I just looked it up. So the skin is called Old Master, so it's clearly a rebel skin. The description of the skin is stranded on the ancient Sith world of Malachor. Maul never let go of his hatred for his old rival Obi-Wan Kenobi. Then the body is the TPM model unchanged, which I don't even really fault them for. I get it. You don't want to do a texture of a different face, whatever. That's fine. But then it's the short sleeve shirt from season 3 with the
lightsaber,
Inquisitor lightsaber that he would have circa Solo, with the Solo legs and some like in undetermined pants. But there's no other Solo era like flourishes on it. No gold chain. Like it's just
it's all over the place.
The new requirement is 5,000 villain kills. The original requirement was 5,000 kills with Darth Maul.
Dang.
Oh, that's dumb.
Just Maul, not any of the others. Just Maul. It's insanity. But anyway, at the end of if either of you have anything else for this first part before we get to like the direct end of the episode with maybe one of my favorite shots in Rebels.
Oh yeah.
Then go right ahead.
No, I'm good, Jacob.
I just love the door sequence when they're making their way through the doors. We see Ezra give in a little bit, tap into
he's starting to slip.
Maul calls it a wellspring, the wellspring of anger. That moment is I don't have anything super smart to say about it, but just that's one of those scenes that I always am looking forward to watching. And I'm just, oh my gosh, dude. It's so the sound effects, like the sounds the doors make when they're opening, it's like a growling animal. It's oh my gosh. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. And then we get, I think, one of my favorite shots in Rebels, which, look, this is a shot that is pandering to fanboys and fan people of all genders. And I'm one of them, so everybody shut up and let me have... How many freaking lightsaber blades is that? I'm going full lightsaber go burr right now.
It's awesome.
We have 3 Jedi and 2 Jedi, a part-timer, as I believe Maul calls her. 2 Jedi, a part-timer, and a former Sith against 3 Inquisitors.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, could you imagine? I'm just like trying to. I remember in my notes I was trying to like imagine what an OT kid, or even like you all, a PT kid, like. I can only imagine all your reactions when you saw that many lightsabers on screen and the talented individuals wielding them.
Yeah, it was great. It evoked. It was like a darker metal version of sort of like a Geonosis feel, like when you see that
Yeah.
many blades, or that we get later with Acolyte. But yeah, it was great. It was also the novelty of a team up that you never thought you would see.
Yeah. Ahsoka and
People
Maul.
involved.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just it was. Remember, this is a time when we didn't know Clone Wars season 7 was ever going to get made. Like this felt like the ultimate sort of tip of the cap after Rex and Wolf and Gregor, of course, to that era of Star Wars storytelling, and it just feels even more complete now that the parallel between them in particular has been driven home so hard. These are the apprentices.
Yep.
This
the
is
Phantom
this
Apprentices.
Is,
Yep.
this is the Phantom Apprentices. And this is Twilight of the Apprentice, and this is two people that survived the same era. These are one manipulated by the dark, one who was on the side of light and walked away. Oh, he walks away over here. Like there's all those things that have brought them to this moment that make it really compelling. And it would not shock me if in some way Ahsoka was in Shadow Lord. I don't think they're going to have a confrontation in that show, but I just would not surprise me. But we got to keep Ashley Eckstein employed, so
yeah, that makes sense. And I still hope to have like even a season about what the hell Ahsoka was doing in between that one Tales of the Jedi short and Rebels, because it's been years and I really want to know like what she was up to. But in either case, as we go into that next episode, as you were talking about, Alden, the retroactive, I've already been impressed with this season. They did it in the beginning of the season with the Rex and Wolf and Gregor episodes. They did it later this season with, I'm forgetting, there was another thing they did it with later in the season. But the way that they made season 7 of the Clone Wars, specifically that final arc, and it slotted in so perfectly with all the references we got in specifically the season of Rebels, is just magical to me. Like all of those references to Lady Tano, running away again, Lady Tano, like it just works so seamlessly with what we got in TCW, and it does. I think Joseph Scrimshaw was the one who like came up with, I forget the term he exactly came up with, but like when he was talking about on one of the Force Center episodes about like the various looks that Alec Guinness gives in New Hope that obviously get expanded with so much context with the prequels and TCW and all that kind of stuff. Like that building of the space to dive in more in future stories that they do so incredibly well in this episode, in these two, in this double length episode, I should say, which is another thing. Actually, I will say, at this point, the only like my biggest flaw with Twilight of the Apprentice is that it was cut into 2 parts. Like I would,
I would have just let this run as a TV movie. Honestly,
they do it for the. No, they don't actually. This is a consistent problem within Rebels, honestly, is that I think with the exception of Spark of Rebellion, they're all the 2-parters are 2-parters, when really they should just let them run for 40 minutes.
And I think even Spark is too, like in the WGA, like it is.
It is too. No, it is.
I think they were aired together though.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I
some of them were sold also as DVDs. As their own.
That's true.
So. I saw it originally as I think probably on Amazon Prime, but I saw that one as a 45-minute or just that one.
Yeah,
they ran all the way. They ran
still, I still think I was really annoyed at I wasn't particularly enthused about the cut to title in the second part, but then I realized, wait, well, my biggest problem is it really just shouldn't be there anyway, because it should just be a one long.
You know what? The other thing too is that there was also, it was with Spark, right? There was the ABC re-release that was different from Disney XD that included the Vader scene. Like then they it was like they made a whole thing of having James Earl Jones.
I didn't realize. Vader I thought that was already
at the very end. There. You mean?
No, at the beginning.
Vader.
Yeah.
The Vader, like the
Vader talking to
like the Vader opening crawl.
Yeah, Vader talking to the Grand Inquisitor.
It's a Inquisitor.
That was the thing. Yeah, so it says, I'm looking it up just for the record. So it's season 1, episodes 1 and 2. But then when you go to the release of it was like a release. Yeah, so it was screened publicly at Comic-Con that year, then Disney Channel in October that year, then following then Disney XD going forward. Then it was announced to air on ABC at the end of the month, featuring the new scene of Inquisitor and Vader.
Oh, I didn't realize it was not always with that. Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, and the idea arose after George Lucas was screening the original version that didn't have it, and blah 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 blah. And that was a whole unique thing of like why that's a thing and these aren't, but like
that's really interesting. I'm now the smattering of George advice that they've gotten over the years from, hey, you should really like explain a lot of this stuff with Darth Vader at the beginning, to hey, I think this character should be named Ahch-To.
It's the best.
Anyway, it's Ahch-To. Well, it always mystifies me. He looks at a side Mandalorian character and goes, I know that guy's name. Fantastic. But yeah, as we go into the next episode, as Kanan and Ahsoka figure out the story, the plot of last episode, the first thing I have in my notes is just the look that Kanan and Ahsoka give each other when Ezra confidently says that he and Darth Maul took a Sith holocron from the temple together. Is priceless.
I mean,
the look that they give each other is great.
I kept having to remind myself in this episode, Ezra probably doesn't know very much about the Sith or holocrons or the dark side. Like,
Darth Maul is.
This is the don't go in the basement episode of Rebels. Like I'm yelling at the screen a little bit as I'm watching this all unfold.
Just the constant I'm like the bruh, like looking at like the bruh facial expressions of Kanan when his apprentice is telling him, yeah, me and Darth Maul over here are doing shit together to get the Sith holocron, and Kanan's like, dude, it's Darth Maul.
It's one of the better examples of like the characters in Star Wars don't know they're in Star Wars.
Yeah.
This is Din Djarin behavior years before we had Din Djarin.
It's Din Djarin behavior, but it's worse because even Din, I think, would go to Darth Maul and be like, nah, this guy ain't good. This guy isn't. Although, again, maybe that's me just expecting Pedro's good sense to creep through into that character. But yeah, already the Sith disperse, not the Sith, the Inquisitors disperse, and Maul is a very... Maul's line, oh, how exciting, we're all on the same side. There's so many examples in this episode of just absolutely cruel foreshadowing, and that's one of them. Yeah, and then they start the ascent up to the top of the Sith Temple. Ahsoka and Kanan are ambushed by the Eighth Brother, who... I lied, actually. The copter sabers are not my favorite Inquisitor weird gimmick of this episode. My favorite Inquisitor gimmick of this episode is the Eighth Brother turning the hilt of his saber into a fucking buzzsaw.
The knuckle duster.
Yeah.
It's stupid.
Yeah.
And I love it so much. Like, there's the Eighth Brother is like the Iron Man of the Inquisitors. He has all these gadgets. He has the bombs. He has just enough gadgets to make a very compelling kit for him in Galaxy of Heroes. Is because he had in Galaxy of Heroes the abilities he has are just a regular lightsaber strike, the bombs, and then the buzzsaw. I know there are a lot of naysayers and people who hate the Eighth Brother. I just kind of love him because he's so kitted out, and yet he does nothing. He does absolutely nothing, even though he has a buzzsaw and bombs just equipped on his person. And he's a jumpy species. He's not just a human. He's a Tyrellian Django jumper who have like enhanced dexterity, and he does absolutely nothing.
Good for him.
It's incredibly funny to me. But yeah, the other thing I will say about before we get to the Inquisitor massacre is as there's a great moment where with Ahsoka and Kanan as Maul and Ezra go up on an elevator together, Ahsoka says he'll be fine, and Kanan asks, yeah, how do you know that? And Ahsoka responds, because you taught him. And I love that moment of Ahsoka's confidence with Ezra.
Yeah.
Because she realizes in a way that Kanan doesn't, that like she believes in Ezra in a way that Kanan doesn't, and I think that's partially because of distance. Obviously, she's not his direct teacher, but I also think there's a maturity and a wisdom That's actually one of the things I love about this second part of the episode so much, and that we've been seeing from Ahsoka so much in the season, is how much she's grown up. Is how much she is no longer Snips, the rash Padawan who goes in season 1, gets the entire squadron killed. She's not that person anymore. And she's grown to become, this is like, as Jacob and I have talked about before on here, like before her death and resurrection, as we've kind of termed it, this season is the ultimate like apex of where Ahsoka's gotten, of this is the person she was always meant to be. And this is the person she's always meant to become in terms of pure like Jedi / not really Jedi. Again, we'll get into it later. In terms of Jedihood, this is where she's supposed to be. The white lightsabers, the still cracking quips, but the more calm and grounded demeanor. Great stuff. Yeah. I'll throw it to Alden first. Before Maul starts coming through and just starts cutting through Inquisitors like they're butter, do you have anything for this first part of the episode?
I mean, nothing really like specific, other because I think of so much of it as a whole. As we already discussed some stuff that comes from this, but this is just, it's pure hype, right? Does what fun come from last episode or this one?
It's the very end of last one, but it might be from this one.
That's the moment that sticks out.
He says, "What fun!" Episode ends.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
That's my favorite part of the whole.
Pretty great. Like if you have to split it into 2 episodes, that's a pretty darn exciting way to do it.
Yeah,
what
pretty good way to do it.
It's great.
Yeah. Sam Witwer, man. Sam Witwer. He keeps getting better at this character, and it annoys me because of how much I hated this character's resurrection at the beginning. But he's just so good at it.
Yeah. What about you? What you got anything for this early section?
Man, I do want to talk about. I want to jump in and talk about something that I found myself feeling impacted by in this episode, or feeling like I was really feeling the weight of the whole show and the whole story when I'm thinking about trust in this episode. I mean, Eli, you mentioned that line and that sweet moment in between Kanan and Ahsoka where she says, "He'll be fine, you taught him." The heroes really grapple with trust and loss, especially in this episode, and that's so much of what Rebels overall is about. And at some point you have to face the reality that you will lose something you love. Maybe you trusted someone instead of trying to take on everything yourself. There comes a time when you have to trust others regardless, and that is what Kanan is struggling with so badly. And that is what is one of the defining challenges and areas of growth in his entire relationship with Ezra is trust. And we see that again and again throughout the show with Sabine and Hera, for example. And ultimately Ezra does show Kanan that Ahsoka was right. As much as he was completely unprepared for meeting someone like Maul, he didn't know what Maul was doing to him. He didn't know the implications, the real consequences of what he was doing. At the moment when he could have struck down the Seventh Sister, he takes the Luke Skywalker, "I am a Jedi, like my father before me" approach, and he affirms that he is a Jedi, even if it's just saying, I can't do it. He forces Maul to kill her, and that's a moment when he was at a precipice in that moment, but he proves that Kanan did a pretty darn good job. But
I'm glad you mentioned that, because like if we can transition to that moment.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is the moment with Ezra, Maul, and Seventh Sister where, looking back on it, this is the moment where it becomes clearest to me that Ezra was never going to turn. That like at least like in the story arc that they're prepping, I'm not saying it was never on the table for him, but like this is the moment for me where Ezra demonstrates why he can and is going to, at least in this timeline, become such a great Jedi. Is because he says no. Maul has the Seventh Sister at his mercy. Choking Ezra is enveloped by the dark energy of the planet, which I do believe there's a part of like that's a part of like clouding his thoughts, as we know, like the Sith were doing to the Jedi and the prequels and all that kind of stuff. Ezra had every opportunity and quite a bit of motivation, justifiable motivation, I would even argue, to kill this woman. But he didn't. He said no. And it is to me, that moment affirms that being seduced to the dark side was really never in Ezra's, really a convincing option in Ezra's future. Yeah, Alden, you have something to say about, well, maybe just transitioning into the massacre of the Inquisitors.
Well, I think I really like the points that you both brought up about these sort of turning points and the precipice into the abyss, the emotional abyss of it. I think especially Kanan, the point that you made, Jacob, about trust and about where he's at in terms of the help he's receiving and sort of the lay of the land of this fight. It's everything that he's sort of built up, where you get the impression in season 1 that like he has a lot of love for Sabine and Zeb, his crew, and Ezra's new, but like that really only Hera had his trust, and we've seen how it's been forced to expand with the clones and meeting them, and how much that has caused his trauma to flare up and everything, like it, and it'll continue to happen with the Bendu, with Saw and everything. Like it just feels like this is a key point of cracking these characters open here through the action. And I think transitioning into the actual everything going down, I think this is some of the best directed action in Rebels. Like this feels like a decided step up over the stuff that they've been doing up to this point. It's very, very compelling.
Yeah, I agree. And I love that Seven, who I think is the most developed Inquisitor of the 3 of the season, gets the most developed death. The 8th brother gets his goofy ass death where he has a little.
It's so Looney Tunes. It's so
funny. It's really funny. And then 5th brother, like the bitch that he is, gets nothing. He gets nothing. He gets one moment, jump, slash, boom. I will go into, on our next episode, I'm sure I will go into my building just disdain for the 5th brother. I hate that guy.
The 5th brother is very funny to me because just from a real world perspective, but like casting and the voice that he has here versus the voice he has it's like he's Latino sometimes and he's Asian sometimes.
We don't even know.
Racial coding down on that guy.
Does he have a species? And he still doesn't have a species, right? He's just a gray guy.
I think he has a home world. I think he got a home world in Battle Scars.
Yeah.
Let's check. Yeah, he got a home world, Artemisium.
Okay.
Which sounds like a mineral. It sounds like what you're supposed to take when you have a rare illness. Museum. But yeah, and then
can I say one thing before we move on from the 5th brother?
Yes.
Do you guys happen to recall what he said during his introduction? And I think it was Always Two There Are, the beginning of this season.
No, I don't recall.
Is that what the episode's called?
It is what the episode's called. Yeah. I don't know what you're specifically talking about.
He talks to Callus. Is it Callus? Is it Constantine? He said, he's talking to Constantine. Constantine says, we weren't expecting an Inquisitor. He says, I care not for your struggles. I will succeed where you and Agent Callus have failed.
Bum, bum, bum.
I was going to say, can we cue the directed by Robert E. Wide? Like, it doesn't get much better than that.
It's also, by the way, I happen to know, it's actually not in Always Two There Are. And the only reason I remember this is because it's a weird coda at the end of the Rex episodes. It's a weird coda at the end of Relics of the Old Republic, introducing the 5th brother, as if he's going to be the threat this season, and not Darth Vader or either of the other 2 Inquisitors you introduce. But anyway, after they die, I don't know, maybe it's because I'm still a pretty casual wrestling fan, but I don't know, maybe Alden is a more hardcore wrestling fan. You can tell me if you thought about this. But the moment after 8th brother falls and Ezra's going up the top and Maul and Kanan and Ahch-To are left alone, I instantly just hear, watch out, watch out, watch out. And then Maul just absolutely turns heel on Kanan.
Yeah, it tracks. It definitely tracks. Maul is one of those characters that would face turn, heel turn multiple times a year.
Yeah. And yeah, one of the most shocking, even with the end of the episode, one of the most shocking developments of the episode, Kanan's blinded. And of course, we talked about this last episode with the haunting, we'll see each other again from Kanan to Hera, and how, of course, that will not be true until the moment before he dies. And as Alden was talking about earlier, about the idea of the physical sight being removed, but seeing another way, which I believe is an actual line, something that Kanan says in season 3. I don't remember exactly when, but like, I feel like he says something like, I've learned to see things differently now, or something like that.
Well, Bendu says that. Bendu says that to him, like, time to learn to see things differently now.
Yeah. But it's a shocking and like, I think it's so interesting because other than obviously the classic Star Wars hand removal, like other physical injuries haven't really, like, there isn't that much precedence to them in Star Wars. And like the specific blinding of Kanan, if a friend of the show, Jared Dark Jedi, were here, I'm sure he would bring up Ram Koda when talking about the blindness. And of course with the fact that Kanan, especially in seasons 3 and 4, grows more and more to resemble with the long beard and stuff like that, and I believe he even has a ponytail at some point. Like he even starts to resemble Ram Koda at some points. But it's a really profound moment. I remember how stunned I was at the time. I didn't remember this, but I noted right afterwards when Maul and Ahsoka start to duel, the Duel of the Fates theme starts to play for a little bit. And it's like, and there's this like grand revelation of, oh yeah, like we all were waiting for this shoe to drop with Maul, but now that it has, it's horrifying to watch.
Yeah.
I put in my notes, so Maul was manipulating Ezra. Who could have guessed except literally everyone?
Yeah, I mean, he has to, again, it's the establishing his threat level, but also I think Filoni and anybody running one of the animated shows, Jennifer Corbett, now Matt Miknovitz is the head writer on Shadow Lord, so he's stepping up to run his own now, which is great. But like they all have to sort of try to exact the cost in a way that is still ultimately PG, even G in Resistance, but like you really have to be able to convey loss. And I think all of us watching this show, especially within the context of the time, we're expecting such tragic fates for Ezra and Kanan because that's just how we were conditioned to think about all Jedi characters pre-New Hope, is that they can't be there.
They can't be there because the Jedi.
And this was a way of not taking one of them off the board, but making it very clear that the show was moving up in tone. It's the difference between The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. It's the difference between, again, I don't want to promote it or draw too much attention to it, but there's books 1 through 3 of a certain series, and then there's 4 through 7 of that series. And this feels
a
like
casket of flames.
There's a graveyard scene that it very clearly levels up to young adult.
Yes.
And this is that. This is where Rebels sort of takes its place here, I think, through this two-parter in general, but this act of violence is like, damn, like the family is hurt and it can't be undone. Like this is just it now. This is dad has been crippled and there's no undoing it.
Yeah. I remember reading before season 2 came out, I remember reading so clearly like a Vanessa Marshall interview where she said a lot of time, like there's gonna be a lot of moments in season 2. Something, man, what she said? It's like season 2 is gonna get, the part I remember was a lot more dark and intense. I think I can't remember the exact wording. And I was like, right, I'm ready. I'm excited. I was no longer ready and excited by the time this rolled around.
Yeah.
I remember I remember watching this. Yeah, I downloaded it onto my mom's iPad. We were on a road trip somewhere. I just finished the part where Kanan gets blinded. We were stopping to get gas. I remember stepping out of the car, being like, "What is even happening right now?" all of a sudden, nothing felt real, and I was like,
And then
my dad was like, Jacob, you good? And I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
And then of course Maul gets the hell out of there. I know I'm still a little annoyed, and I hope we get this in Shadow Lord, by the way. I understand the reasons for the pacing of the episode, but I would have loved to see Maul versus Vader duel.
I like that he runs though, because it allows us to have
Vader. Yes,
it allows us to have him, but it also allows us to, again, it's not that Vader's threat level needs to be sold. Even a newbie would understand that he's a problem, just culturally, pop culturally. But this is Darth Vader.
Plus earlier in the season.
But Maul's fear does that the great thing of selling you a story that you didn't even know you hadn't seen yet.
Yeah, which I'm hoping we'll see in Shadow Lord.
Yeah, like right there, you're like, oh, you got your ass kicked by him, didn't you?
Yeah,
like you could feel it.
Yeah, and so Ezra's in the temple, and I'm like, and Ezra gets a comm from Chopper, a TIE fighter, are you sure? And I just start putting my notes, oh Lord, he coming. I'm like, I know what's happening. It's one of those things where, like, I can only imagine watching the episode for the first time, which I don't remember when that happened, but like the anticipation building, but now knowing it's happening, the anticipation's building even more. And my Lord, there are so many cool things that the new canon has done with Vader. I love the Hammer Horror Massacre scene in Part 3. I love everything they do in Part 6. I love the Siege of Lothal. There are a lot of the cool things they do with him in the Jedi games. But Darth Vader floating down from the air on a TIE fighter look, you're right. It looks gorgeous. It's just like, if there's any way I could have chosen Vader to appear in this episode, it's that.
That's again, there are those moments that let you know that is Anakin Skywalker, and that's one of them. And also, this is where he drops some of his best shit talk on Ezra.
Yes, it is. Yeah, absolutely. A minor meme develops from this episode, which I don't fear you, then you will die braver than most.
It's so good. That to me is underrated. Like, a lot of credit goes to the Vader down of like, I'm surrounded by fear.
Surrounded by fear and dead.
I was about to say,
they have some very similar tones.
Yeah. James Earl Jones obviously comes back with a vengeance here. Rest in peace to the king. My Lord. The stuff he does in this season is fantastic, and the stuff he does here is just legendary. I will just, I'll just ask anything anybody else wants to get to before we get to the thing that everything's been leading to.
I'm good.
Just do it.
I'm ready. Yeah, I'm ready. This is the
Perhaps I was wrong. It wouldn't be the first time. And then I put in my notes. The Office meme. Oh my God, it's happening! Everybody, stay calm. Stay fucking calm.
That's how it feels. I mean, you mentioned pro wrestling. This feels like the, oh my God, that's Ahsoka's music. That's Ahsoka's music. Like if this feels like, there have been several of these since. Those moments where you're like, this can't be real. One of them is Ahsoka and Luke talking on screen. Like we've been lucky enough to see a lot of cool shit.
Part 6 duel,
Part 6 duel. We got to see Luke and Leia Jedi training. Like, we've seen a lot of cool stuff. This was one of those where we were like, oh my God. Like, imagine telling someone this in 2008 when we met Snips, that she would show down with Darth Vader on Malachor of all places.
On Malachor 5,
It's like really, really nuts. And it introduces concepts and ideas that other filmmakers have used, like what Deborah Chow does in the Kenobi finale directly builds on this. Many fans pointed out the symmetry,
opposite halves of the hat mask.
It's like together they reveal his whole face when you put the scenes together, and the blaring of the voices with Matt Lanter, and then later they would do it with Hayden.
Hayden. The thing I love going with that, and I've mentioned this here, the interpretation I've always loved of that is that Ahsoka was able to partially reach him. Obi-Wan was able to partially reach him, but only the children are able to fully reach him. Only Luke's able to fully reach him, fully get through. Ahsoka and Obi-Wan, they try their best, but they just can't. It has to be his own kin.
And it's the idea of maybe if they were together, they could have.
Oh yeah,
Like
that's
we'll never know. And that's that line from Clone Wars that gets used in a lot of sad edits, which is as long as the three of us stick together, we'll be okay.
We'll be okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
How's that gone? Yeah. Was beginning to believe I knew who you were behind that mask, but it's impossible. One of the other things I was thinking about is how kind of Ahsoka and Obi-Wan, again, the brilliance of retroactive continuity in Star Wars, kind of go through opposite arcs in Part 6 and Twilight Apprentice, where Ahsoka starts believing that Anakin can't be reached and ends believing that maybe he can.
Yeah.
Where Obi-Wan does the opposite and ends, obviously, goodbye Darth, believing that he can't be reached. Yeah, and here we go.
Yep.
Then I will avenge his death. Revenge is not the Jedi way.
Woo.
I am no Jedi.
The bars in this episode.
Yeah, man.
Holy moly, dude.
Fire pen.
It's really great. I also gotta say, this is not Ahsoka saying she's not a Jedi.
Yes.
That's not what this is about.
Let it all out, Eli. Let it all
That's not
out.
what this is about.
Years of rage is being let out
God,
right
here
now.
we go. Yeah.
Truly,
Speak on it.
like when
And
Dave,
you're right. And you're right.
when Dave had to say, like, I think this was pre-Ahsoka series, like, really, Ahsoka is more Jedi than most of the people. I'm like, yes, obviously.
Yes,
The point,
she is in every way. It's also a reply. It's not her catchphrase. She doesn't land in superhero pose and then say this.
I am no Jedi.
Know?
It's not.
Yeah.
It's not Black Widow.
Yeah.
Yeah. The idea of that I will avenge his death. Jedi are not supposed to do that. Is what Vader's trying to say, and Ahsoka is saying, "Well, screw that. I love you too much.
Yeah.
I love Anakin Skywalker too much to let any doctrine, even of those I used to call my own, prevent me from avenging his death. I love Anakin Skywalker too much. It's that moment, and it's brilliantly an echo of obviously how Luke successfully does it, of where in the oft-lauded, and it's very good, Dave monologue at the end of that one Disney Gallery episode, where he's talking about how Luke's saying, I love my father too much to let anything get in the way of that, and how that brings Anakin back. Ahsoka tries to do that here. It doesn't work because Anakin's not in the place for that yet.
Yeah.
But she tries essentially kind of the same thing. This is not, I'm reading directly from my notes where I said, this is not a Jedi thing. This is not a light side thing. This is between two people, Ahsoka Tano and the man who killed her master. And to honor her master's memory, she must destroy the man who killed him.
Mm-hmm.
This is such a selfless act of, I loved this. Going back to Revenge of the Sith, you're my brother, Anakin. I loved you. Of Ahsoka throwing everything away to say, I knew this man and he was a good man, and I just want him back.
Yeah.
That's my rant about I am no Jedi aside.
No, it's very valid, and it also just like a lot of work from a lot of great writers has gone into, from the High Republic all the way down to the Rise of Skywalker, the whole canon timeline of stories. A lot of work has gone into showing that not everybody, even everybody on the same side, agrees on what that word means. And it's like, I know it's much easier to latch onto it as a rallying catchphrase of independence, but it's also it worked. There's everything you said. There's the fact that it's a reply. There's the punchiness of it, but there's also just like the verbiage. We're not agreeing on what the verbiage means here. Like what Vader is saying is trying to throw at her the Jedi-dom, the Jedihood that they experienced, that he helped raise her in. And in saying I am no Jedi, it's everything that we've said, but it's also your version of that word does not apply to me anymore.
Yeah.
I define what that is. And nobody can decide that for you. And that's such a big point that has come up in a lot of the canon stories. And I mean, it makes me think of Last Jedi, of like part of Rey's arc there. In a lot of ways, the crux of it is understanding what that means and what it doesn't mean, and how ironic it can be, and how sometimes you try to shake it and then it comes back anyway. And sometimes, and Luke too, sometimes you try to shake what you think is a reductive thing, but then even that can have inspiration, like facing down the whole First Order with a laser sword. You look at it glass half full, and it actually can be somewhat inspirational. So I think a lot of it in canon has been deconstructing those ideas of what the role means, what it means to each individual person. People disagree on it all the time, especially in the High Republic. That's a huge thing of like, what are we supposed to do? What are we not supposed to do? The sort of suspended consciousness of Elzar Mann talks about this with Luke in
that
Charles
one
Soule
comic.
Run. Like, we have all been a part of the Order, but at different times that has meant different things. And for her to say, I am no Jedi, is also her beginning the arc that I think is completed in Shadow Warrior, which is her saying I'm not going to be defined by the child soldier element of what you are clearly trying to throw at me, which is our experience in the war.
And by her master's failures, like just because you failed in your mandate as a Jedi does not mean I'm destined to as well. Yeah. Jacob, before we get anything else to say before we get to that fight?
No, not at all. I think you guys, we should go for it.
This fight is beautiful. This fight is just gorgeous. There's just so many, like, it's so full. Again, like we've been talking about a lot with this episode, it reminds me so much of Part 6 now. In hindsight, it's such an energetic. It's so filled with emotion. It's so like the roundhouse kick that Ahsoka delivers when she slashes Vader's helmet in half to stop him from getting the holocron is just a beautiful shot. It just looks gorgeous. Microphone. And it's such an iconic.
There's a really great use of Naruto running in this fight too. That I think they are able to do it without it being too cheesy. Like, she's not using force speed, but it just like really defines her fighting style in a really cool way for this point in her life. And Vader too. I mean, like, this is Vader in animation gets to be a little bit quicker, a little bit sharper.
But not even. That's the other thing, is that Vader's fight before this season is in the more original trilogy fashion in Siege of Lothal. But this is the way. This is the time he really gets to let loose. This is the time where he gets to fight like.
And he has to.
More prequel style.
This is somebody who's like, Ahsoka is better at this than Kanan and Ezra.
Yeah, and she's not slowed down, as we talked about in the premiere, by like the fear of Darth Vader. That like the thing that for me slowed Ezra and Kanan down in that first fight was the fact that they were that Vader just projected this overwhelming cold fear in the Force, and that was able to bring them down to his level in terms of speed. Yeah, it's animated incredibly. Kanan and Ezra, meanwhile, get the Sith holocron together as a master and apprentice is another fantastic moment. Ahsoka roundhouse kicks Vader, cracks the mask to stop him from getting a holocron, and then she hears his voice. Matt Lanter's voice is overlaying James Earl Jones. The mask splits in half, obviously. I won't leave you. Not this time. And we have that standoff moment with the cape rustling in the wind of the energy release. Ahsoka's theme in the background. It's a breathtaking moment.
It's really something.
It's like, and then I won't leave you, not this time. The 4 words to define the end of this episode. Then you will die.
Another thing that is already masterful and beautifully done in the moment, but then you get to the actual spirit of Anakin Skywalker confronting her later, and that's the choice it gives her, right? Like this, it's an echo there too of like, live or die. Like that's what it comes down to, and it gets her. It almost gives her an opportunity to run this back in a healthier way.
Yeah, that's good. And just the heartbreakingness to me of this moment of she thought for a second she could save him, and she was wrong. and she has to confront the choice. She had to confront that moment that she thought better of him, and how that trust was, and how that momentary trust was betrayed right before the temple doors close. Jacob, I think this is one of the first ever really like big Star Wars moments you and I ever experienced together as friends.
I think so. Yeah,
it was the perceived loss at the time of Ahsoka Tano.
Yeah, the first one was Han Solo. That was the first one. This was the second big one.
Yeah, no, it was Han, then Ahsoka. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I beg your pardon?
I was just gonna say, like, what an impact it left on, of course, all of us at the time, but I feel like a lot of people your and my age growing up with Rebels.
Yeah.
It was a huge event. It was a moment that I will never forget. Just being like, wow, the character we've stuck with for 8 seasons now, or less than that, but still like 6 seasons with now, she's gone. And she's never coming back. I mean, obviously, we'll get to World Between Worlds when we get to World Between Worlds, but she's never coming back. This is it for Ahsoka Tano.
I actually never believed that it was, but I didn't have like a theory. I just didn't think like it, because it's that shot at the end, right? It's the shot at the end. That,
yeah.
Like, it's
and to be clear, Jacob, if you want to relive this. Not that you want to relive this. You don't want to. I'm sure Jacob doesn't want to relive this because we've gone through this 100 times. Jacob and I made a bet. Jacob and I made a bet when we were hanging out together once.
Ahsoka Lives bet?
Yes, indeed.
When was the Ahsoka Lives t-shirt? Was it? It must have been before. It had to have been before that. But when was that? I'm just curious. I can't remember.
It was at one of the celebrations. I don't remember which celebration.
Was it before season 4?
Do you mean? Because do you mean that when the question mark shirt debuted?
The shirt, yeah, the question mark and then the exclamation point shirt.
Because the reveal of the exclamation point was for. It was in the panel for season 4, wasn't it?
Okay, it was in the panel for season 4. I forgot whether it was 3 or 4.
Yeah,
it was for 4.
3, she's not in it at all, so they kept that joke going the whole time.
Yeah, but I thought, maybe Dave had done it. Anyway, Jacob and I made a bet with each other, and I still have the text that Jacob had to text me afterwards of whether Ahsoka lived or died. And either way, we had to write like a text to each other about something, like arguing something we didn't believe about Star Wars. I forget exactly what it was. But anyway, we made that bet the day before A World Between Worlds debuted. The day before.
I thought this was years before. I thought this was hot on the heels of season 2.
You're right. We first made the bet right after season 2.
Did we reaffirm? We re-up it?
We were talking to each other the day before, and we were like, and Jacob was talking to me like, "Are you sure you still believe she's alive?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I still kind of believe she's alive." And he's like, "You're crazy, man. She's dead." And then the next day,
I believe that. I believe I said that.
No. Here's what it was. The original bet happened the day before the celebration panel, and so twice I got affirmed the very next day that Ahsoka lived.
I remember being happy that it was said, that it was like enough questioning. It's happening. There was like those like trading cards that are like loosely canon.
Oh yeah, we talked about that last episode, and I really want to still see like the full story of like what happened, Ahsoka's journey through the netherworld of the Force or whatever that was, the depths of Malachor. I think there's some really, those trading cards are beautifully illustrated. We obviously talked about last episode. We talked about that one Facebook post Dave made of Ahsoka talking to the Bendu of Bendu saying many things will change, including death, and Ahsoka being like, "You mean I'll die?" And Bendu's like, "I don't know what the fuck you're talking about."
It was also around this time that Dave wrote I think the only time that he wrote an article for StarWars.com personally. And he wrote an article on StarWars.com about his love for Tolkien, and I was just like, "She's coming back." The second he did that, I was like, "This man is backdooring his Tolkien fan fiction into Star Wars. She's coming back." And then there's even an illustration that he did that's Yoda and Gandalf, I think, for the article, and then later he did an Ahsoka.
It's Ahsoka and Gandalf. People thought I was dead.
Yeah, I was like, this man. Let me see. Dave Filoni Tolkien. I'm gonna get the date on the article.
All right.
While Alden's looking at that, I do just want to say my favorite part of the episode is the very end. Jacob and I were talking about this right before we started to record.
Okay,
That
sorry.
ending
I do real quick. Sorry, I just want to retract. I don't want anyone to throw corrections at you guys. He did write this article. It was before Rebels though. But
it was before Rebels, but still,
it does very clearly sets up. I'll send it to you, Eli, just so you can take a look at it because it has a Gandalf Yoda that he did before.
Oh, I forgot about the Gandalf Yoda. I knew about the Gandalf Ahsoka.
But it is extremely clear.
I was dead too.
Like people that don't realize how like deep it runs with him, like the production code name.
Yeah,
for
I'll put this in the
Ahsoka
description.
Stormcrow, which is one of Gandalf's many names and all that. So yeah, it's the way those trading cards work very heavily echoes Gandalf the Grey being resurrected from the dead as Gandalf the White. And
I'm looking at the date, this December 14th, 2012. So like right after
the company was sold,
TCW,
but we didn't really know what was going to happen.
Yeah, right after TCW went the way of the dodo for a while. But yeah, and he's talking about TCW and all that kind of stuff. The image of Gandalf and Yoda. I've never seen this image of Gandalf and Yoda. I saw the one of Gandalf and Ahsoka, obviously. But anyway, to finish off this episode, I just want to say this montage at the end to Ahsoka's theme, dun 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 dun. It's like of the blind Kanan and Ezra returning to Adelon without Ahsoka, Rex like registering it, Maul taking a TIE fighter, finally escaping Malachor, Vader limping out of the temple, brief shot of Ahsoka walking out, more eye flying above Vader, Kanan blinded, getting back on the ghost, and then finally, of course, as Alden mentioned, Ezra opening the Sith holocron for the first time, fade to white. What an ending.
Well, you see, he's tapping into the holocron because he's going to be played by Benicio del Toro in the next saga film. And so that's what's going to put him on the dark path. You understand?
To becoming Snoke.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Precisely.
I remember those theories. Remember when we were all
the Benicio del Toro ones too were so funny because inadvertently, like they couldn't have known, but like the hair and makeup department on Last Jedi made it so much worse by giving him almost the same cuts on his cheek that Ezra always has.
I didn't even know. That's an amazing.
At least we got him back with the like. At least the theorists got one over with the Diana Lee and Asanto, Morgan Elsbeth, Ninth Sister thing. They got their redemption with that. So
that is true.
But yeah, I'll put it to Alden first, as if all three of us have not laid bare our thoughts on this episode. But overall thoughts on Twilight of the Apprentice and just what this episode leaves as legacy for Star Wars.
I think this is an essential piece. I mean, this is when it's hard sometimes to define as we get more and more Star Wars, like what the spine really is. But for me, and I think for a lot of us, the spine of Star Wars is still the Skywalkers. There might come a day when that's not true, when there's just so much storytelling without them that they become just another arc. Talk to me in 10, 15 years when new fans are like, the Skywalkers, yeah, I mean, that one's okay, but I like this. And they'll be able to say that about something that has just as much. I mean, technically, Din and Grogu have already been on screen more frequently and in more minutes. And so it's like,
it
already freaks you out when you start to think about it.
I saw a post that said, which also freaks me out, the person with the character with the most on-screen time in Star Wars right now, in live action, the person with the most live action screen time in Star Wars right now is Cassian Andor.
Yeah.
Which is crazy to think about.
That freaks me out too. So that being said, though, right now, I think spiritually and for the legacy, it is still that. And Rebels is so much more than just a Skywalker saga story. It doesn't fall into the category that Kenobi falls into, where Kenobi for me is a chapter. Kenobi for me is 3.5.
Oh, yeah.
Rebels isn't that. It does stand on its own. But there are
times...
But
it intersects sometimes, yeah.
Exactly. There are times, this being one of them, Twin Sons being another, where we veer off into the Skywalker saga as a detour. And I can't imagine the story of Anakin Skywalker without this. I can't imagine what's happening now in the New Republic era without this. I think it makes everything else better. That all harmonizes, especially with the Ahsoka series. And there's a lot that by the time the second season of that is out and we know the direction they're going in, I'm sure this will hit in even more ways. But like I look at Ezra here and like how worried we are for the character and the place we leave him in. This episode is in part remembered for his brush with darkness. And now we look at the character and he is so defined by the opposite. I mean,
By the light, yeah.
We left him alone for 10 years, didn't know where he was, and by the time we pick up with him,
and I was so scared for him. I was scared
for him too. And he's dealt with his exile better than anyone else that's ever been in exile. He inspired other people and made friends with a species that doesn't even speak the same language as him, and taught them about the rebellion, and they make their own little crest. Like, he's so defined by the light that to see him in this place, it's like an exercise of contrast that really emphasizes that the long arcs that we've been telling in the Disney era have all really been, I think there's pillars along the way, and this is one of them where I think this is when Rebels went from being a really good show, like a good first show for this Disney era of Star Wars, to essential. Like, I think any doubters were silenced here, where it was like, oh, this is as good as the best Clone Wars. This is as good as a movie moment.
And of course sets us up really well. I think this, like, from the as Alden, you were saying, from the transition from, okay, this is a good solid show, there's really good stuff here, to the elevated stuff I think that we get starting with Steps into Shadow. Like, this is a really great transition from the stuff before into seasons 3 and 4, which to me are just on another level in the show. Jacob, go ahead. Overall thoughts of Twilight of the Apprentice.
Well, Alden, I completely agree with what you said about this being, in some ways, the turning point. This is absolutely essential Star Wars. This is one of my favorite moments in Star Wars, bar none. And I will just say there's probably more, but off the top of my head, I can think of 3 times that Star Wars has brought me to tears. I'm not a huge crier. I'm not a proponent of Sigma male toxic. I talk about my feelings a lot, but I'm not a big crier, so that means something to me. This is one of those moments. I remember it. This is one of those moments. I remember feeling such grief and sort of shock and sadness at Ahsoka being gone, who really was, back then especially, and still now, but really back then, hot off the heels of watching all of the Clone Wars for the first time, really one of my very favorite characters. I just have to think that when Dave Filoni and the crew behind the Clone Wars introduced her way back in, was it 2008 that the movie came out?
Oh,
yeah. If they could have seen me distraught and crying years later about Ahsoka dying, quote unquote, they would have thought mission accomplished. We made a kid cry.
Yeah.
But joking aside, like, there's not too much more I can say. That is like the level of essential Star Wars that Rebels has reached.
Yeah. No, I said my notes, top 5 Rebels episode, period, end of sentence. Even beyond, to me, like, this would be, if you removed the last 10 minutes with everything with Ahsoka and Vader, it would still be a top 5 Rebel episode to me. Like, even before that, it reached top 5 Rebel episode. And now and as the Ahsoka and Vader stuff, and I don't want to say it's just the icing on the cake, it's the best part of the episode to me, of course, but it just elevates the episode even more. I think if I had to, like, look right now, I still think Twin Suns is my favorite episode of the series. And I think World Between Worlds is up there too. The World Between Worlds, Twin Suns, and Family Reunion and Farewell are the 3 that prevent Twilight from getting any higher for me. But, like, other than that, this is just the best the series has to offer.
Mine is still Trials of the Dark Saber for personal reasons.
That's a real good one.
But yeah, man, it's the start to, I think of, like, just an incredible run of going forward. Like, season 3 builds on this potential so well. And
season 3 is, I'm excited to get to season 3 of Star Wars Rebels, and that's what we're doing. That's going to be it for this episode of Star Wars in a Galaxy. Next week, we are doing our retrospective for season 2 of Star Wars Rebels, where Jeff and I are going to go over our overall thoughts of this season of Star Wars television and end season 22 of Star Wars in a Galaxy. Before we go, I want to say thank you to Alden for coming on for this episode. And Alden, I'll give you a chance. Where can we find you?
Yeah, you can find me at that Alden Diaz, ThatAldenDiaz on Instagram and Blue Sky. Blue Sky handle is longer, obviously. I think it's a .social or .bsky.social. So you can check me out over there. Anytime with Canon Alden airs Fridays at 11 Pacific, 2 Eastern. More stuff in the works. Casually Talk is sporadic right now because we're out of season, but come January, there's going to be another show in the Game of Thrones world. So that'll be back in full swing. And yeah, other things in the works, but excited. And then I'll defer to Eli on this, but I'm pretty sure I'm defending the title around Christmas time.
That is correct. Our December match Alden will be defending his title in December against one of the gauntlet of contestants. Where we go. One of the gauntlet of contestants we have in the Epic Confrontation pipeline right now. You can find us. You can listen to In a Galaxy on all of the podcasting platforms. You can follow us everywhere at In a Galaxy Pod, inagalaxypod.bsky.social and Blue Sky. My link tree where you can find me, linktr.ee/_OTFan327. Epic Confrontations is going to resume in October with the aforementioned climb, the path to the title. Nikki Kumar versus Jerry the Canon Junkie is our next match in October. That will be coming out hopefully mid to late October. We're recording it in mid-October, so I'm very excited about that. And yeah, I think until next time, may the Force be with you.
Always.
Always.